64 years ago, Nigeria celebrated its independence from British colonial rule. It was a monumental occasion filled with hope and the promise of a new beginning for a nation rich in culture, resources, and potential. The country's founders and forefathers, including the likes of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sir Ahmadu Bello, and Chief Obafemi Awolowo, envisioned a Nigeria that would rise to become the leader of Africa, a country that would fulfill the aspirations of its people and be a beacon of progress. However, as we mark another anniversary of that historic day, the reality of Nigeria's current state could not be further from that dream. Nigeria at 64 is not a story of triumph or progress, but one of significant deterioration and abandonment of the very systems and institutions that were supposed to form the bedrock of our nation's development. What should have been a cause for celebration has become the day of reflection and mourning for what could have been. The Nigeria we see today is far from the one envisioned at independence. It is a country plagued by rampant corruption, widespread poverty, an economy on life support, and an unrelenting crisis of insecurity. The fearlessness of the Nigerian people has been on full display today as protests under the banner of the Fearless in October movement have erupted across the nation. Nigerians from Lagos to Abuja and even in smaller towns and cities have taken to the streets to voice their frustrations as the government they believe has failed them. These protests reflect the growing dissatisfaction of Nigerians who are fed up with the status quo and who can no longer bear the burden of living in a country where survival has become a daily struggle. The truth is that Nigeria at 64 years of age is in a state of decay. The economy, which should be the engine driving growth and prosperity, is crippled. Inflation is at an all-time high, making it nearly impossible for the average Nigerian to afford even the most basic necessities. The price of fuel, once a lifeline for many industries and households, has skyrocketed to over 1,200 naira per litre. This has had ripple effects on every other sector, driving up the cost of transportation, goods, and services, and further impoverishing a population already struggling to make ends meet. The price of a bag of rice, a staple food for millions, has soared to over 120,000 naira, putting it out of reach for many families. The economic situation is in dire, and the government seems incapable of providing solutions. While ordinary Nigerians languish in poverty, government officials continue to enrich themselves with outrageous salaries and perks, completely insulated from the suffering of the masses. The gap between the ruling elites and the common man has never been wider, and the consequences of this disconnect are becoming increasingly evident in the form of civil unrest and protests. The insecurity in Nigeria has reached a crisis point. Bandits, insurgents, and kidnappers have turned the country into a battlefield. Traveling by road has become a dangerous gamble, with kidnappers lying in wait on highways ready to snatch innocent travelers for ransom. In the northeast, Boko Haram and its offshoots, the Islamic State West Africa province ISWAP, continue to wreak havoc, displacing the entire communities and instilling fear in the hearts of citizens. In the northwest and central regions, banditry and violent conflicts over resources have escalated. The Nigerian government, despite its effort, has been largely ineffective in tackling this widespread insecurity. This situation stand in stark contrast to other African countries that gained independence around the same time as Nigeria. Ghana, which became independent in 1957, has managed to maintain relative political stability and has made significant strides in sectors such as education, health, and infrastructure. The capital of Ghana, Accra, has become a hub for tourism and investment, while its government has focused on democratic governance and anti-corruption measures. Kenya, independent since 1963, has emerged as one of Africa's technology leaders, with Nairobi being dubbed the Silicon Savannah of Africa due to its growing tech industry. Despite facing its own challenges, Kenya has shown an ability to innovate and push forward. Senegal, another nation that achieved independence in 1960, has made impressive progress in human development indicators, particularly in healthcare and education. It has successfully avoided many of the violent conflicts that have plagued other African nations and has invested in programs to support sustainable development. Even South Africa, which only achieved majority rule in 1994, has positioned itself as a regional economic powerhouse despite its challenges with inequality and governance. By comparison, Nigeria, with its vast natural resources and the largest population in Africa, has continuously underperformed, largely due to corruption and poor leadership. The country's oil wealth, which should have been a blessing, has instead become a curse, with successive governments mismanaging oil revenues and allowing corruption to thrive. Instead of investing in critical infrastructure, healthcare, and education, the country's wealth has been siphoned off by a political class that prioritizes personal gain over the national development. It is against this backdrop of economic hardship and insecurity that today's protests have erupted. The Fearless in October movement is a reflection of the pent-up frustrations of millions of Nigerians who feel abandoned by their leaders. They are demanding an end to bad governance, corruption, and the rampant insecurity that has made life unbearable for so many. The protests, which began in Lagos and have spread to other parts of the country, are a powerful reminder that the Nigerian people have not given up on their country. They want their voices heard, and they are demanding that the government take action to address the root causes of their suffering. This movement is not just about the high cost of living or the insecurity on the roads. It is about the very future of Nigeria as a viable, functioning nation state. How can we as Nigerians celebrate 64 years of independence when we are not yet free from the chains of corruption, insecurity, and poverty? Independence is supposed to mean freedom. Freedom from oppression, freedom from exploitation, and freedom from fear. Yet, for millions of Nigerians, these freedoms have remained elusive. The insecurity that ravages our roads and communities, the economic policies that drive up the cost of basic goods, and the corrupt practices that siphon public funds into private pockets all serve as reminders that true independence is still a distant dream. The Nigerian government, for its part, has been largely silent in the face of the growing unrest. Instead of addressing the legitimate concerns of the protesters, it has often responded with some amount of force, attempting to stifle the dissent rather than engage with the people it is supposed to serve. This is not the hallmark of a democratic government. It is the behavior of a leadership that has lost touch with its citizens and is more concerned with maintaining power than with solving the country's problems. Government officials with their bloated salaries and luxurious lifestyles continue to live in a bubble, insulated from the suffering of ordinary Nigerians. While they enjoy the benefits of office, flying abroad for medical treatment, sending their children to prestigious schools overseas, and living in opulence, the vast majority of Nigerians struggle to access basic health care, quality education, and clean water. The disconnect between the ruling class and the masses has never been more evident, and it is this disconnect that has fueled the anger and frustrations we are seeing on the streets today. As Nigeria marks 64 years of independence, we must confront the uncomfortable truth. Our independence has been hollow. It is independence in the name only, not in substance. We cannot claim to be truly independent when we are still beholden to the forces of corruption, insecurity, and bad governance. We cannot claim to be independent when millions of Nigerians live in poverty, unable to access the basic necessities of life. We cannot claim to be independent when our roads are unsafe, our schools are failing, and our healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. The protest today should serve as a wake-up call to the Nigerian government and the political class. The people are demanding change, and they will no longer accept the status quo. The fearless spirit of the Nigerian people, as demonstrated in today's Fearless in October movement, shows that the citizens of this great nation have not given up on the dream of a better Nigeria. They want true independence, not just from colonial rule, but from the forces that have held this country back for so long. It is time for our leaders to listen, to take action, and to deliver on the promise of independence. If they fail to do so, the protests of today will only grow louder, and the calls for accountability will only become more urgent. The future of Nigeria depends on it.